Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to MedianXL. This is patch 2.10.7. There's actually a current patch in beta, I think that comes out in November. It's actually June when I'm recording this. It's going to be weird because you guys are going to see this video first, but this is actually after I finish the character. I thought that'd be a lot more fun to do as a zero video. So disregard anything I say about, like, oh, in the 3 hour... No, I'm going to condense this a bit more. Plus, I learned a lot. So, yeah. Median, I've played since 2012 and 2013. I think I played Omega. I don't actually have the exact patch I played, I don't think, anymore. I'm sure if you went in the older versions you can find somewhere on the internet. You could figure it out probably if I really dug deep in my old files. But before we even get started, does this work with Plugy? No. Does this work with D2R? No. Is it ever going to? Probably not. But Medians came a long way since I've played. The very first time I ever saw Median was Stars. I think it was Ultimatum patch era, and I was like, yeah, that's the game I want to play. So another thing I'll point out right now, everyone who says it's actually a whole different game, no, it's not. It's a total conversion. There's still 120% Diablo 2 vanilla underneath the hood, so quirks and stuff in vanilla Diablo 2 work. It's still the same game. Now, this is the interesting thing, is I haven't kept up to date after 2013 till now with Median, so a lot of things have changed. You can also skip this video if you already know what Median is, but if you don't, I really recommend watching this thoroughly, because I do go through every single Uber in the playthrough, and I explain specifics of those. But if you want to know specifics of how the mod works, this is the video you want to watch. Now, keep in mind, subject to change, of course. There's a new patch coming out in November. I don't know what's going to be in that patch based on what I've looked at so far. I'm not really super worried. I mean, I don't take Median that seriously. It's pretty goofy. But it is still fundamentally Diablo 2. If you want to look at it, don't think, oh, it's actually a whole new game. It's not. It's more of an expansion to the existing Diablo 2 thing. And before you even say, should I play this first? Should I play D2R? Should I play vanilla? You know, personally, in terms of accessibility, play D2R first. But if you're like me and you've played since 2012, you don't really care about the graphics personally. I mean, I love the charm of Diablo 1 and 2. They're some of my favorite looking games on PC. But I would say play the vanilla campaign, and then play a character or two through Hell. If you like the style, go for it. If you like Path of Exile, go for it. I would even hesitate to say, and this is going to come as sacrilegious to anybody who's a longtime viewer, if you like D3, sure. Now, I've played since 2012, so I know what used to be in Median and what was in Diablo 3, and I know what was inspired by Median in Diablo 3, so I do know fundamentally what each thing is and can explain it before it was implemented into Diablo 3, if that makes any sense. So I do know, as a player, what was in Median first, and the devs had actually seen Median and they took inspiration from it in designing Diablo 3. There's very little things I can say successfully that were implemented, but it is a thing. So that's the preamble out of the way. What does this mod play like? Well, like D2. But I would also say this is a very challenging mod. It starts out deceptively easy, a lot like vanilla Diablo 2, and then it just ramps up. You do need to have some mathematical planning ability. Like, you need to know how to actually play a character. In my experience, I've played dozens and dozens of different Diablo 2 characters. In old Median, I played Unholy Paladin. That's probably completely not even how it plays anymore, if I had to guess, based on patching. I've played through as a traditional summoner, mixed with Totem, mixed with Malice. I've played through as very vaguely into melee necro before I did this character, and I also have played Boazon because it's just great. It's like the reason you try Median, I think. I've also dibble-dabbled with, what's it called? There's probably something else I tried, and I've also made a Bloodzon recently. That was actually what made me want to do this Let's Play. She probably is hot garbage, if I had to guess. But that could just be me, right? So, this is a difficult mod. It kind of assumes you know what Diablo 2 is and the fundamentals of endgame character building and stuff, so going into this completely blind is a horrible idea, but if you want to, I'm here to tell you how to do it, but you really should have... I'm assuming you've played D2 numerous times if you're watching this, but you never know. This is a longer video. I have 3 beverages next to me, so I've got some Hearty Hazelnut Seattle's Best, some coffee from work that I didn't finish yesterday, and a Athletic Brewing Co. non-alcoholic hazy IPA. That's how deep we're getting in this. Because, as I said, I do explain every Uber. I explain the lore. I explain all the stuff in the playthrough that you're going to watch. But I want to make sure you know the differences and how this works before you watch that. Like I said, you don't have to watch this, but I'm not going to explain, oh, this is how stamina works. Oh, this is how... MOs work fundamentally. This is how this area works, whatever. So this is important to watch if you've never seen it. So before we do anything, this also has some new settings. There's still the old-fashioned skill tree buttons. You have up to 12 hotkeys. Quick casting, that's pretty cool. So if you have my mouse has, I think, 5 buttons. I only just use 2. It's not really worth it, in my opinion. Everything's the same, but there's a new transmute button. This is really handy, especially because this is a very big crafting mod. There's a lot of crafting you got to do. There is multiplayer. I'll talk about that in a minute. There's a new feature in here called Reveal Map, which is literally map hack. I've never used map hack vanilla, but this is because probably thousands of people got really sick of, banning people from using map hack. But at the same time, this is more or less, we'll talk about in a minute. But I do use it for a handful of reasons, but it's because Median is very different. I'll talk about it in a minute. There's also really cool GUI things. You have themes. There's currently 2. Tartarus doesn't really work. I much prefer this Crimson Red one a lot more. You can adjust gamma, contrast, gameplay. A much better... control in terms of volume EQ compared to regular. You can show whether you want to see these HP numbers, stuff like that. If you're colorblind, that sucks, but you have that here. You also have active buffs, so if you've ever played old school RuneScape, which is the MMO I'm familiar with, I think a lot of MMOs, especially World of Warcraft, do this. They have little boxes that show you when buffs and stuff are active. That's really handy because a lot of this mod involves, especially if you play Paladin. Paladin has tons of buffs you got to pay attention to. There's countdowns. We'll talk about that later. There's notifications, so if you want to see how much crap is on screen with gold, you can turn that on if you really want to. I have that off. The only one I have is level up, so I actually notice when I level up because I don't really pay attention to it. Auto map, there's actually a small map. It's a different form of auto map. I'm not really a big fan of it, but if you want to try it out, you can. There's loot filtering. I'll show you that in a minute. This does support up to 4K, I think. I'm running this in, I think, just standard windowed mode because it's easier to record in. But there's widescreen support. There's shaders. I have it on sharpen image. There's shader presets. I've got mine on 12. I like this preset. I think, let me double check. So it comes with the launcher, and I'll talk about this in a minute. If you go to your settings in your launcher, you can see here I have it on DirectX. This kind of makes the game look like classic Diablo 2, which I kind of prefer. You can make it as dark or as bright as you really want. I just prefer this kind of washed out look. It's what I always think of when I think of D2, so I have it on that. And of course we have a loot filter. This is a really, really cool addition. This used to be a secondary... Hi, Zesty. This used to be stop canceling sound and get down. You're making things very difficult. Yeah, you're going to sit there for like 2 seconds and then spaz out, I know. So this is really handy. If you want to get really technical, RuneScape has this now. And every time I say RuneScape, I'm talking about old school, but this you can actually disable certain things. Like if you don't want to see... Well, we'll just look at mine real quick. So I don't need to know anything is rare or magic anymore, so I have it turned off. But jewels I still have showing up, so I can make an exception for that. It's really easy to do this, and you can see when an item drops, it'll actually show you it on the side of the screen. This is really handy because there's a lot of shit going on in this mod at most times. And I'll talk about that too. It's really handy because you can be like, oh, I want a specific item category of like gem or whatever I'm looking for. In the early game, you might be like looking for specific types of items, so you can type in a specific one in here, like blah, 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 like azadazes, yeah. Let's say I wanted to find a belt. I could type in belt, and I can type in whatever type I'm looking for. So this is really handy. You can also have presets. I have one for my Amazon and my Necro, so that's pretty cool. I'm just going to leave that alone. We'll talk about all the other things it has later too. But this is really handy. Just a lot of QOL stuff. The GUI is obviously slightly different. This is the Diablo 3 style, if I remember correctly. Orbs and such. I don't really care. Those know I've played D3 for 3 years. I really don't like it. But there's aspects of it I do enjoy, but I really didn't like it. And to me, this is what Diablo 3 just is anyways. I've always thought that even when I played MedianXL first, then played D3 and went, wow, this is 10 times worse. So, you'll notice stamina's down here now. We'll talk about that later. So your skill bar, everything's the same. It's still fundamentally D2. You also have the reveal map. I have that set to numpad minus. You can also set up your hotkeys to have, if I remember correctly, there should be one in here. If you want to have no pickup on by default, if you don't know what that is, it basically just means, yeah, I have it right here. It's my backslash or forward slash. I don't know, forward slash. This is handy if you don't want to pick items up. Like if you throw something on the ground, you click on it like this, you'll pick it up automatically. I have it on because I'm lazy, admittedly. It can screw you over sometimes, but it's just whatever to me. Normally I have my hotkey set to D. That shows dropped items. That's how you pick up items with no pickup on. I'm manhandling this cat, by the way. I'm trying to keep him from rolling off the desk. So yeah, obviously the GUI's a little bit different, but it's still fundamentally the same. If you're a person like me who plays with Plugy, you're probably going to feel right at home. You have all these extra stats, which is handy, because that's actually, to me, the most important thing about Plugy is seeing what your breakpoints and shit are at. And before I even get super into it, this is the MedianXL website. This is going to be in every single description, by the way, going forward in this series. This is free. You don't have to pay money to play this. You do need to have a legal copy of Diablo 2, which I believe... I mean, I have a battle chest copy of D2 since, like, high school, so it works with that. You can see there's also, like, a Discord if you really want to use it. There's a trade forum. There's a regular forum. You can donate to Patreon. I think you get, like, beta access at that. But, yeah, just click here. It's no nonsense. You just need the actual game. This tells you all the cool stuff that it does. But what you really want is just, you know, you can use, I think, D2R, I think, gives you a legal copy, but I can't remember. I don't actually remember if Battle.net does that now. It probably does have classic D2 on there, I'm pretty sure. If not, D2 is pretty universal and cheap. You should be able to pick it up pretty quickly off of, like, $20 maybe, 20, 30 bucks on Amazon. I don't know. I paid $20 for it, like, ages ago, so I don't know what it's like. But anyways, you can always get, like, the newest version. It comes with a launcher. I don't like launchers in games very much, but whatever. You can see here it has, you know, news that'll show up when you're playing. And it'll be like, oh, look at this. You can look at the documentation from here. And it's pretty cool shit like that. So if you ever want to know like patch notes, stuff like that, this is going to show you all the patch notes for each version coming out. You can look at previous patches. So if you're like, oh, wow, what's changed? But you want to click on Game Guide here, and then we're going to go to, like, just keep this open for a minute. So, yeah, it's all free. But anyways, that's just pretty impressive that it's all free. You can donate to the mod creators and get forum gold. Now, I don't play online as a rule of thumb because everybody's a sweaty tryhard neckbeard anyways. I used to play... usually I'd start off as a sorceress or a Javazon for 4 or 5 years straight on Bnet, and then I got sick of just saying, why am I fucking caring fighting against bots? It's pointless. And I stopped playing multiplayer. But it's all legal. I don't really know how to feel about forum gold because it's a D2JSP sort of thing, and I don't really agree with that. But since it kind of benefits the mod creators and the servers, I kind of look at it as a whatever thing. I don't really play with the multiplayer, but there's a pretty big trading community. You can get really good advice from people. There's just plenty of resources out here. The Discord, I'm pretty sure, is friendly. I don't know. But yeah, you can play this with friends. You know, you just got to have a legal copy of D2. That's it. And we'll talk about the documentation in a bit. But for now, let's just talk about this. So the GUI has changed a tiny bit. You still have weapon swap, etc. You still have all this. This is still vanilla Diablo 2. We'll talk about all this crap later. You're probably like, 2,616 strength. What an insane number. We'll talk about that later. So yeah, this is all here. It does show your block chance and your defense, just like good old classic D2. And like I said, Plugy. You can get those really nice Plugy QOL stats with this. So you can see I have all these numbers here that are like your class skill, like from plus skill gear. Stat signets we'll talk about later. Skill durations, weapon damages, your spell combined damages, your focus, which we'll talk about later. Pierces, that's all pretty much what you'd expect. This is really handy. Let me go on here real quick. There should be a tool. I'm 99% certain that there's a tool on here. I've shown it before. I might not remember where it's at, but there is a tool on here that will show you speeds. I think I show it off in one video, but you can always type in your numbers and see what your breakpoints are. I'm assuming you know what breakpoints are if you've played Diablo 2. Like, you just sort of know, like, 100% attack speed is 6 frames of animation for a necromancer based on his stat roll. Stuff like that you kind of, I assume, already know, but whatever. You might not. To put it in perspective, this is all the same, right? This is just like if you're a summoner, you have your summoner stats. Defense is your chance to block an attack and not take damage. Evasion. This is all, you know, classic D2. We know what this is. Stacked resistances. This is something that's in. There is a fly in here. Get out of here. Little tiny fly. I don't like those guys. You might know what this is. This is really handy in vanilla D2. This gives you absorption. This is a regular D2 thing, so I'm assuming you know what absorbing is at this point, so I'm not really going to have to go over that. You can see your reductions, your half freeze duration. If you have CBF, it'll be a 1. And sustain, this is your health regen, mana regen, your on melee, your leech, stuff like that after kill. It's really, really handy. You can also see your magic find, your gold find. No one really cares about this on this kind of a character, but XP gain doesn't really matter after a while. Slow target percentages, and of course, like I said, it's all... I assume you know what like stats are in D2, so it's all there. It's all visible. Pretty much anybody who's played D2 can tell you 179,000. Sorry, this isn't even like the highest this goes up to, by the way. This Necro can do 651k defense, which isn't even that high. So like, that doesn't mean I reduce the damage. If you've played this game, I assume you know, it's like in RuneScape, you know, it's your chance to not get hit, not reduce the damage. That's a different multiplier. So yeah, XP bar is still down here. Just like in vanilla D2, you have explanations of things if you hover over them. Belt is a little bit different. You only have 4, so it's 16 pots in your belt in this mod. Kind of a balanced thing. I can't remember if it's like 8. I think it's 6 by 4 in vanilla D2. It's been a while. I never remember the belt numbers, but there's a little bit of a difference. So in this mod, potions regen to a percentage. So it's pretty important to know how much health you need when you do certain things. I'll talk about that later. So items are pretty much like they are. So we'll show you this. This is a new addition to the mod. I'm going to crack open this NA beer. I really like these. These are really good. Hazy. So, some of the things you'll notice right off the bat. By the way, this is in hell difficulty. Hi, Zesty. Can you not be directly in front of the microphone? Okay, thanks. So it's all still vanilla Diablo 2. This is why it drives me nuts. It's a whole different game. Well, what's all this? This is vanilla Diablo 2 last I checked. Actually, let me get my follower. I'll show you that. That's a little bit of a difference. Followers are a little hit or miss, but followers have been changed. They now have an amulet slot, and a belt, boots, all the basics, but it's still kind of the same thing. They also have their skills. They show what they do. You know, it's like in vanilla D2. You know what they do. They have a certain attack, and it'll tell you what they do. But in Median, they have their own plus skills that they can roll off of. Like if I think this one has something on here has like plus skills you can see, but it doesn't matter. You can see it's all very like, oh yeah, see like,
I'll put that to good use.
so you can see like they have their own skill levels. It makes mercenaries, I don't know, they're a little hit or miss in this mod. They've always kind of been hit or miss in Median, but basically they're just a second player, if that makes it any better, that doesn't have as beefy a stats as you. They are significantly changed. So if I go over here to Kashi, breakfast cereal, you can see there's a lot more. Like we have different types, just like in the regular D2 mercenary screen, like Ranger and Priestess. I think there's like 3 different types for the Town Guard. And they also have unique abilities, like if we look at ours over here, Abaya Mabe. She can use Amazon-only bows. That's a unique thing that this specific mercenary can do. They can also use helms, if I remember correctly, Amazon helm. So, yeah, I chose this one because it has Vindicate, which is really good. It's always really good. I think that's a vanilla Boazon skill. Arrowside, really good skill. This is, I think, a Priestess, if I remember correctly. Heartseeker is really good. Barrage is just really annoying. So it's not like in Vanilla D2, you know, you go to Nightmare Act 2, Frozen Defensive Paladin. We all use that. It's a little bit overkill. It's just because it's good. Whereas in Median, mercenaries are actually a lot more useful. They can be used to fill out the gaps in what you can't do. And they also can do a lot of cool shit. Like if we look at here, I think she can cast Flame Strike on kill. Flame Strike is a really strong proc. You can give them procs you don't have the ability to use with specific items. Like she has super high crushing blow, which will stack with mine. What else have I given her? I gave her like some pretty good boots. This is a half decent item, but I was like, you know, I'd rather give it to her. You can give hand-me-down gear. You can do whatever you want, basically. This is a melee necro I forgot to mention, but so I wanted something that would fill out the range option. Plus, I just love Amazon in this mod. It's just Amazon's my favorite class. I can't help it. um, so yeah, there's a little bit of a difference in some of the acts. There's no longer repair. It's not a big deal. I know it's probably crazy that I don't care about it, but I kind of wish it was back in the game because after a while you have so much gold that it's almost useless. But merchants are still merchants. They still have merchanty things. I'll go over to Geed so I can show you some other cool shit. So Geed, we'll talk about this in a minute. But if you're a gambling man like me, you can also hit R. I think it's default R. You can refresh a lot like in D2R, which is really handy if you want to do high gambling. Gambling kind of falls off later on, just like in regular D2, where it's a little bit more of a gold sink. And you can also have a filter. So you see these how they're highlighted in like a color. They'll actually show up in the gambling filter with a white highlight. So that's really handy. Like you see if I needed this, like a staff, I could find it a lot faster. It's really handy. This mod also has a training cellar. So if you want to test out your DPS and you want to see exactly what you're doing, there's these dummies. Yeah, get out of there, Abea. Fuck it good. Yeah, tell it who the real boss is. That's a handy little feature. There's also events online. If you're around Halloween, they have specific server-side events. You can get some pretty cool shit from those, from what I remember. So there's a lot of cool things like that that it adds. Waypoints are slightly different now. You can type in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 if you want to like be that lazy. I actually quaffed a potion, but oh well. So those are new. It's a handy little QOL thing. What else have I got going on here? Akara still does free respecs 3 times. I think you can get up to 50 free respecs, like level 50 free respec, but I haven't done it, so I don't care. But I think that's still in the game. But that's a quality of life thing. I'm not really bothered by it personally because Median takes a lot of learning to figure out how to do it really well. Let's talk about the stash. All you hot boys that are super used to Plugy, don't feel bad. They give you 10 storage spaces, which is more than enough, and a shared storage. Shared storage is really only good for like muling stuff the old easy way. But if you're online, you don't actually have a shared storage, so you can mule. It's allowed. You'll have to look at the server rules on that. I think you can only have 2 multi-logs at the same time, and that's it. So, yeah, storage is still, and even now, this isn't shit I even need. This is pretty decent if you ask me. Like, there's plenty of space. The other stuff I could probably even just cram in here what I know I need. I'm used to playing old Medium where you only had 1 page, so it's not a big deal. But there's a couple of things that this mod adds with storage that's kind of important. There's no shared gold in this mod, so there's that. So like I said, there's no repair cost and there's no death cost. But we'll talk about why that's a big deal in a little bit. So gold is really useful for a while, and then it just sort of drops off until they update it later. But something that's really handy about Median is you can see these are runes, right? But these are called containers. So this thing here called an oil of craft can be used to take like an item, and we can cube it, and we can take it out, cube it, and put it into that, and then we can say sort item into container, and it puts our items, these cham runes, together. So this actually costs gold to do, which is expensive early game. So it's kind of a good gold sink when you're bored. But you can actually store up, I don't know how many it goes up to. I think it's like 100 or probably more in a container. This is really nice because there's a lot of different things in this game. Like from vanilla DT. If I say game, just know I'm talking about mod. I don't consider this a whole different game. So like, You're probably like, oh wow, look at that, you got 2 Cham runes. That would have been my Zod rune and my Ja runes, but like, oh wow, 3 Burr runes and Sur runes, and oh wow, this is cool. So Median gives you runes a lot more frequently. They also only require 2 runes of a type. Like, let's say 2 Ith runes will make a Tal rune, 2 Tal runes will make a Ral, 2 Chams would make a Zod, etc., etc. You can also down tier a rune. Let's just do it real quick. With like let's say this Eld rune. So if I wanted to make an L rune, I just transmute it, and I could turn it into an L rune. You can't go below, but that's like what I'm talking about. There's nice itemization like this. It's really handy. Some people really like it. I like it a lot. It's nice because there's a lot of testing you can do with these sorts of things. There's rune crafting in this mod. It's not like in RuneScape, but it's kind of similar. There's an area that has blank runes called primal runes, and then there's essences, which you craft into poison, ice, arcane, stone, lightning, and fire, I'm pretty sure. Those are all the essences. We'll talk about it later. And then down here we have a new addition, so it goes from L to Zod, but they're called enchanted runes. These are gold runes. They have higher stats. So if we look at an O rune compared to an L rune, you can see this is +3 to all ats. These have +10 to all ats. It's not really what you think it is. You're not going to be really using these for like filling out certain things. By the way, look at the ja. So if you're like, oh wow, how rare is, like, they're not very uncommon after a while. Like, yeah, you can see I have that many 6 fucking Ja runes in this item. But like the higher tier enchanted runes are very uncommon drops, and you don't really see them as often. There is an area that has a bias towards them, but those are, you can only up tier them. You can't down tier them. I wish that they'd let you do that personally. Especially for like some of the Uber Quest scrolls, but basically these are like higher. They're really rare. They're on the same level of like vanilla D2 drop rate, if that makes any sense. And they're really cool when you get one. I have my loot filter actually set so I see it. They also look different than a regular rune drop. So you can see here it says loot Doge rune. So you can see it has like its own little enchanted rune on the text. So you know it's different when you're in the middle of crap. Same with these guys, but they don't drop. You only drop the essences. Jewels are a pretty big deal in this mod. We'll talk about that later. But there's also gems have been overhauled a bit. They have different effects. Like, I think skulls in regular Diablo 2 do life leech, I'm pretty sure. In this one, they do enhanced damage. In weapons, I should say. But we also have Bloodstone, Amber, Onyx, Slam Let the Boys Be Boys, Turquoise, and Rainbow Stone. They all do different things. I personally haven't found a whole lot of use for them later on. They're used for some recipes, for like charms later on, but for the most part you're going to be using them for early game, a lot like in vanilla D2. And they're not bad. They're all right. They're whatever. I don't really have an opinion on them. They actually took out the chipped tier, chipped and flawed. You used to be able to get chipped and flaweds. Now you can only get like the 3rd tier up to perfect now. But jewels are still jewels. That's why you'll be using these a lot late game, which we'll talk about later in this thing. We'll talk about these later. Another thing that's new to this mod is item crafting, specifically for targeted items. So this isn't a unique, sorry. Let me get some beer in me, right? Whole no alcohol. I'm blasted, man. So you can see at the top it says Robe of Steel, Full Plate Mail Sacred. So Sacred is a tier of item, a lot like in Vanilla D2 you'd be Elite, and then I don't remember what it's elite and is the top, and then I don't actually remember what the middle tier is. Either way, it's a lot like that. So I'll show you on a better example. So if we go over to Guide here so I can actually look for it, it's a lot easier to do this way. So you see how it says Axe 1 through Axe 4, like this? So the difference isn't necessarily sockets. So in vanilla D2, if an item said like 2, it would say like 2 sockets, right? This is where it gets interesting. And so uniques are still uniques. They always have the same mods. Sometimes they might be a little bit different. Like this specific one will always have a cast speed, spell damage, all these things right here. Might be a little bit different. But this is an entirely different thing. So the full plate mail is the item, like the base, just like in D2 vanilla. Sacred's the tier. Sacreds are a separate tier than like the 1 through 4. So if we go over on the documentation here, I can actually show this off. So tiered uniques, let's say one-handed swords, right? So there is, oh Jesus, there's like 100. Okay, let's go to something easier. How about this scepter? There's only 3. So this is a good example. So scepter, the item regular, would be Sunbearer, and then the Grand Scepter would be Voidstream, and then the War Scepter would be Dreamswayer, right? Now, those aren't particularly bad items, but if we look at these, let's just look at Dreamswayer. So tier 1, we have 12 to 14 to 24 base damage, Rec level 7, 64 dex, and this is actually a half. I've used this before, by the way. It's for Bloodzons. So let's look at the stats. So at tier 1, it's going to be +1 to Amazon skills, 15 attack speed, all that shit. By tier 4, it'll be +2 to 3 Amazon skill, 40% attack speed. Everything gets better. Now, you want to have this handy when you're up tiering. I'll tell you how to do it later. Because look at this. At tier 1, 64 dex. Tier 4, 387. So when you up tier items, not only do they get better, but you need to have the proper stats to wear it. That's a big part of this mod, is double checking everything you do. So if you want to do anything like that, you got to make sure, do you have the stats to wear it? If you replace it with a different piece, can you still wear it after? That's part of this mod. So this is where it gets interesting. So this confuses people, but it's not that confusing. So if we go to Sacred Uniques and we go to Scepters again, we can see that, oh look, there's Scepter, Grand Scepter, and War Scepter. So these are totally different items. So if we're looking at like what I was talking about for that Bloodzon, now you can roll 1 through 4 on gambling. You cannot roll Sacred through gambling. You have to find these. It's all same with sets. I'll talk about sets in a minute. So let's say we want to get, let's say we're a filthy Bloodzon and we want to get a decent Bloodzon item. And I'm looking at here, I'm like, oh look, there's 3 to 4, okay, that's interesting. So I don't really need this War Scepter, but I want to target Scepter. So I want to get Solar Sion, which I have used. These only come in one flavor, basically. Like, when an item that's a Scepter drops, it'll roll these 2 tables. It'll either be Legionnaire, or it will be Solar Sion. So what does that mean? It's a 50-50 roll on Sacred's which item it is. So there's no tiers. It's just 2 different rolls. So it makes it so that the tiering system still kind of exists, but they have 2 different unique items in that same bracket. It's not really that complicated. It sounds complicated. Look at it this way. Tiered uniques are just 1 through 4. Sacred is just 1 tier, and then there's 2. It's not that complicated. I'm probably making it sound complicated, but it's not. This is actually better for probably storms on now that I look at it, but whatever. So like, let's say I'm playing a necromancer. Let's say I'm playing, oh, I don't know, crossbow. I don't know why I do. I've done it once. So if I wanted to get very nitty gritty and I was looking for a specific one, I'd be like, okay, I want trebuchet. I don't want needle crossbow. I think needle crossbow is pretty much the average one. But then you get really specific ones, and this is where it gets interesting. So if we go to like, let's type in Amazon bow. This is where it gets interesting. So you have two types of bows, right? So you have stag and reflex. There's something like this in vanilla D2, but it's not as intricate. So if you were, say, playing a Boazon and you were speccing into tri-LE damage, which is pretty common. Tri-LE is kind of the late state you want to go for. You'd want like a stag bow. If you weren't, you'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't care. I have Askabrid for my follower, by the way. You'd want to find like tri-LE innate is on the stag over the reflex. This is where it gets interesting. See how this says dexterity damage bonus? Let's look at our actual character here, and you can see that this scythe, a raptor scythe, which is the highest tier of this scythe, is a strength damage bonus, and I have a 418 strength damage bonus because I put all my spare points into strength. If you've ever played any of the Souls games, it's a lot like how strength and dexterity work there. So this makes it so you're not just dumping into vitality and that's it, because that's a huge problem in vanilla D2, because you're just constantly only putting points into like, alright, I've got strength to gear and fuck dexterity, it's good enough, vit, and you never touch energy. Like, that's 100% how it works every time. So weapons can scale with either strength or dex. It'll always tell you which thing it scales with the most. And you can always see how much you have in terms of scaling by going to your stats here on weapon damage. And it says right here, strength damage bonus is 418%. And if it was a dex, it would say dex damage bonus as well. So raptor scythes get a strength. You get the idea, right? If you're playing as a Boazon, because that's what I'm familiar with, you want to have a high dex bonus. So, oh my god, Abea is freaking out. Let's get her out of there. Okay, I didn't even know she was trapped. Oh no. But that's a good example. So if we look at here, you can see that it has a dexterity damage bonus 102, and her dex is at 1526, which is relatively low. For if she was a real Boazon, she'd be a pretty weak-ass Boazon, by the way. They're never going to be as strong as their innate class, basically. So that's what Sacreds are, though, if it makes any sense. I hope I roundabouted that correctly. So Sacreds are the best, and we'll talk about sets in a second. So sets. You'll notice I'm actually wearing a set, and I have the entire set because I have that glowy aura. So sets are very, very, very strong in Median. They've always been kind of strong, but they've kind of became the de facto at this point for early endgame gear. So you can see this whole set gives you 40% to cast Crucify on melee, which is really good. Extra 10% movement speed, 20% life stolen per hit, 20% extra crushing blow, 30-20 damage, 150 all ats, 800 life. So it's really a good idea if you're going to play a type of character to get a set. And if we look at sets in particular, I actually have quite a few. Every character type has its own set that you can work towards. This has always been in the game, but if you've played Diablo 3, this should feel really familiar. That's actually, if I remember correctly, how D3 worked. You wanted to get sets that were based for your class build specifically. I couldn't tell you any items off the top of my head. It's been ages. It's probably been about 8 years since I've played. At least 8 years, I don't know. But that's what I remember it being. So The other thing too is you notice sockets. You probably noticed this already, but every item, including your belt, has sockets, just not jewelry. So belts, gloves, boots, they all have sockets, and you want to fill these with specific items that are going to benefit you. But there's still rune words. We'll talk about those in a minute. So sets, they work like they do in vanilla D2. You can't gamble sets. I don't actually, no, that's not true. I think you can gamble set pieces, but it's just really rare. And I wouldn't rely on it because it's actually very expensive. So, I mean, it's a good gold dump, I suppose, but whatever. You're not going to get sacred pieces, I should say. Actually, yeah, you can get amulets. You can't get sacred pieces. My mistake. So, something that's really important to know is sets are strong. They're not very common. Well, they are, but it depends on how you're playing, I should say. So, like, if I was playing as a Malice Necro, which is more akin to, like, Poison Bone, this is the set you want to use. If you were using Totem Mancer, which is a separate summoning subsect, you could use this. There's one for Trad Summoner, Crossbow Necro, and there's also one for what we've got here as a melee one. I talk about these later. I'm not going to go into detail. There's also an O skill set for each class, I think, too. I'm not really 100% familiar with that. But also, like I said, you can't roll sacreds in gambling. They have to be found from enemy drops. That's it. So I'll talk about crafting too. So angelic crafting, big part of the game. If you really want to get nitty gritty, say you want to, this is so complex. I talk about it in a later video, so just try to ignore it. But there is angelic items, which are their own special type of item. They usually have very high modifiers. If you know what you're doing, they're really, really, really good. But we're going to look at this real quick. So if you play Diablo 1, you'll notice, oh, abandoned, enchanted, weird, magical, shimmering, ornate, all these. These are the shrines from Diablo 1, but they're turned into an item. And I actually have them vesseled up. They normally look like this. So what these do is these are used for creating your own items. They have to be used on sacred rares or crafted, meaning you've already rolled it. It's a lot like, I mean, it's kind of like when you're trying to roll charms, right? In D2 vanilla, like you want to get a skill charm, you want to use 3 perfect gems. It's that principle. But these are targets. So if you want to make, let's say, a good example here, since I've already done this before, like if you want to get spell focus, which I'll talk about soon, you can add, actually I'll just show it because I'm never going to use it on this character, so it's not a big deal. I think I have some crap I can, yeah, I've got these. Actually, no, I want to keep those are half decent. Yeah, that'll work. So you take these. So you take, let's say this is a sacred rare, which isn't that uncommon after a while. Do I not have any other ones? Oh, I guess not. This is fine, I'll have to do. So you put this in your cube with a shrine, and you can see it takes off one of the 10 charges, and it's going to say, oh, wow, +1 to sorceress skill level. 26 spell focus. That's not a very good roll. I'd probably sell for 50 or higher. I don't remember. Oh, look, this one's got druid on it. Cool. So these are really good for targeting specific things, and once they get used up, they just disappear. So if you want to get really nitty gritty, and I'm talking you're like targeting something like you really want it, right? So you go to items and on the documentation, and you go to wiki. Don't type in anything else. Use the documentation or players, by the way. Go to item affixes. And let's go down to here. This looks like a big mess, right? Like, holy shit, what is that? Let's say you're playing as an Amazon, and you want Amazon gear, right? So, Amazon skill levels. So, found on bows, spears, javelins, crossbow, Amazon helms, Amazon shields. But let's say I'm like, oh, I really want some Amazon Plus skill gloves for some crazy reason. You can see I can get a +2 affix on gloves and quivers. So I'd be like, okay, cool. I want to specifically get something for a Storm Zon or a Caster Zon, like a Blood Zon. I can take gloves, sorceress. There you go. There's +1 Amazon skills. But you might be like, that's not really good focus. I want 50 focus. I think 50 is the highest that spell focus rolls up to on these. It's been a while since I've done it. Oh, look. Like, oh, cool. There's 30%. 20%. Oh, it's gone. So when you're doing item crafting with shrines, it's actually beneficial to have numerous types of items, or at least similar types. Like, let's say I wanted to have high defense a little bit, so I get like light gauntlets or something. I get like 2 or 3 of these, and then I compare and contrast the best rolls off of these. So that's it's really good for targeting and theory crafting specific things you want on your items. You can also bless an item. So what you do is, we'll talk about this in a minute, but if you want to impart, like, let's say more stats. I think if it's in the same type, like let's say it was eerie and eerie, it would just add like another roll on top of it basically and bless it. Like it would just be another one of these, right? But I actually have a good example of that. So I think these gloves I crafted a while ago are still there. Yeah. So this is a good example. So I crafted these initially with, I want to say, intimidating. It's not Trinity, I know that. I want to say it was intimidating, wherever that is. So anyways, I'll show you what I did. Yeah, it was. So I will show you an example, because I don't want to use this. This character's still not got as many items as I want. So I rolled intimidating to get the 4% to crushing blow, and the other modifiers are just whatever it rolls, right? There's always random mods. Some of them are specific, but some of them can be pretty good. I wanted +5 to strength, percentage. So I got this, but I was like, I want more vitality. So I took 2 arcane crystals and a shrine and blessed it. So it has that 117 life, I think was what it gave me, and the +4% to vitality. So there's also an item later on you can get that lets you double bless, but it's really rare. It's a pretty high tier item. But that's a good example, right? Like, let's say this scythe, I'm like, okay, I want, let's say, enhanced damage. So weird vessel. I'm not going to use this, by the way, but so we take our weird vessel, a sacred scythe, and we roll it. And it always gives you max sockets, by the way, when you do this. You can't... So if an item has 2 sockets on it, you can't just add 3. I'll show you how to do that in a minute, though. So this scythe, let's say I want... what's that? It's not very good damage. But, like, my point is, you can get really specific with what you're wanting to do. But let's say I wanted to make this item blank. This is where the crafting in Median gets really cool. This is so fucking neat. I don't know why I've always loved this, but it's so cool. So let's say I don't like this item, but I don't want to get rid of the base, but I don't like these mods. So I can take an Oil of Renewal, put it in here. Blam! It's a blank Superior Raptor Scythe. So that's how you start blanking items, right? Now let's say I want to add... I don't know why, God forbid. 2. I'm setting this up for a really bad rune word. I want to add like 1 socket. There's no, well, there is, but 1 socket. Boom. 1 jewel is 1 socket. 6 jewels is 6 sockets. It'll only go up to 6 on weapons, and so weapon sockets go up to 6, I think, on most. Except short swords. I think short swords only go up to like 3. Anyways. Helms always go up to 4. Body armor 6. Gloves are 4. Belts are always up to 2. And boots are 4. So, but the problem is now that it's, you know, socket it. I can't unsocket this. But that's my point. But let's say I'm like, oh, cool, look at this. I want to put this jewel in there. It's great. Wow. Okay, and now I'm really not liking this jewel. It's not really cutting it. It's not cutting the grass. So we can take an oil of disjunction, put it in the cube. It pops the jewel out. If I had more than one thing in here, it would pop it out, by the way. You cannot disjunction rune words. That's something the mod actually won't let you do. I'll talk about how to do rune words next. So, that's a good example. Alright, so let's say it's early game, okay? I want a specific item. This is what I'm talking about, how intricate the crafting can get, and how if you know what you're doing and the mod gives you that freedom, you can make some pretty sick shit to get you through some really nasty stuff. You always have an option. So let's say I want to make I want to go trade, gamble, let's say whatever, I don't know what. The first thing that comes up on here. Yeah, this axe, it's super duper. I want a tier 3 axe. I don't know why I'd want this. Cool, it's got 16 to Gore Feast. I don't even know what that is. Is it Gore Feast? No, it's Gore Fest. My mistake. So let's say I'm like, okay, I want to target craft tiered uniques. We'll type in axe. Ask me a question. What type is this? Just axe, apparently. Alright, here we go. So, just an axe. Let's say I want to make the Lumberjack. Tier 3. It's okay. It cuts trees down all day. I've got the stats to use it. That's super duper. Only need 118 strength. Neat. So that's a tier 3 axe. And let's say I want that specific unique. The Lumberjack. Okay? So this doesn't work for sacreds, but it gets you through the early game a lot faster. Take an axe, oil of renewal, and now we have a superior blank 3. Okay? Now, let's say I want to make the Lumberjack. We're going to put one of these guys in there, an oil of enhancement. Yep, enhancement. I thought it was what it was called. And if I remember my cards correctly without looking, we're going to take... Actually, I need these out of there for like 2 seconds. You can hit control, by the way, and you can move items in and out. It's really handy. We want an arcane crystal, the axe, enhancement. Is it 2? I want to double check because it's been a while. Okay, it's 2. I couldn't remember. I've only had to do this a handful of times in this character. So 2 arcane crystals. Boom! We got the Lumberjack with max sockets. So, and let's say I wanted to up tier that. I could add 1 arcane crystal. Boom! Lumberjack tier 4. And it gives me max sockets. By the way, when you do this, when you up tier an item, you want to take out with disjunction any jewels or whatever you have in it. But that's my point. And so let's say I'm like, this axe is kind of dog shit. I'm not really feeling it. It's not cutting it. It's not shulking it. We can take an item called Catalyst of Disenchantment, and we can say, I don't need this dog shit anymore. Boom. We turn it into arcane shards. This is what I wish Diablo 3 did, but it wasn't. So, anyways, let's say I have a couple of these crappy items, like, I don't need these items, they're kind of dog shit too. Throw these in there, turn them into shards too. So this only works on uniques. It doesn't work on sacreds. Or, sorry, sets. So let's say I'm like, okay, cool. So I've broken down all these things. We can combine 5 of them together to get an arcane crystal. And that's how arcane crystals work. You can also store them in a cluster with an oil, like, crafting. And bam. Those are used for a lot of recipes in the early game. Not so much in the late game. But that's what I mean. If you need something specifically, because you're like, alright, I don't need this shit anymore. I want to shrine bless something. So if I wanted to shrine bless something, I'd be like, okay, 2 of these. Get 2 of these guys out, and then I'll be like, cool. I don't really want to waste it on this. But let's say I want to shrine bless vitality, like I was talking about. You can use 2 of these guys. And then pretend this is a sacred, and then we could add a vitality roll on top of it. So that's what I'm talking about. There's so much intricacy with the crafting. If you're ever in a pinch and you know what you need, you can always look up what you need specifically, and you can generally scrape by. And that's what I'm talking about. But let's say you're like, oh, I'm really broke. I ain't got no monies. I've been spending it all on the girls. 7 gold. Median's not about selling items. It's about crafting and breaking them down. And this is where it gets really fun, in my opinion. Let's say I just got this sick-ass iron shard. This is actually a pretty good weapon, by the way. You can see compared to this scythe that has a tiny bit more damage, but we're not looking at that. So let's say I just found this. I was doing some serious grinding action. Wow, nice grinding action. You get the joke, you're a great person. And I'm like, oh, that's some pretty good damage, but I could really do with some more. So if I had jaw runes, which I don't, they're all in this right now. Let's say it's socketed with these, but I'm like, yeah, I want some more damage. I need a little bit more. I need some more edge. I can't handle all this edge. This is what MOs are for, or Mystic Orbs. So, Mystic Orbs are probably the coolest addition. Like, this was the thing that sold me on Median initially. So, they come in 4 different flavors and 2 different tiers. So, regular Mystic Orbs, you can see they say armor only, weapon only, any equipable. And then you have rings, amulets, and quivers. And yeah, there is enchanted quivers. They're really quite good. They're kind of the thing that saves a lot of the extra modifiers you can put for, like, bows. They're really important for bow characters. So let's say I'm like, oh, I want some enhanced defense. Or sorry, max enhanced damage. So you're probably like, oh, wow, you can just buy damage? Yeah. 3, 4, 5. So the problem with thinking, oh, I'll just buy like 500 of these orbs, that's a bad idea because you can only add 5 of one orb type to an item at a time. In older Median patches, this doesn't work anymore, by the way. If you had a blank item, you could add the orbs to it, enhance the damage up or the defense, whatever, put a rune word in it, and then add more. You can't do that anymore. I'm kind of glad they took that out. It was really shitty and busted. But whatever. That's a decade ago. So, if I wanted to, I don't really want to. Well, why not? So you can see this is going to add 15% enhanced damage, but it's going to give the item a +4 required level. So it'll go from required level 100 to 104, 108, 112, 116 to 120. Now I can't add any more of these orbs on this, specifically enhanced damage orbs. So I have to be level 120, and level cap in Median currently is 150. It used to be 120 was the max, but it's changed over the years. For the better, in my opinion. So, yeah, we can see that this is now a rec level 120. So let's say I'm like, okay, what's my level? 135. Okay, I have that much to play with in terms of adding these MOs onto things. So, physical damage plus 12%, I can sort of add that to it, right? But you can see it gets closer and closer to my actual skill level. So that's how it keeps it in balance. Jewelry is a little funky. I've never liked how jewelry is never as good as it is in vanilla D2, but that's probably for the better. So jewelry mods are usually just resistances, by the way. I don't mind this. It's just, I wish there was more, you know? Like adding 100 defense, fizz dam reduction's probably the best one. Mana regen, 20 to life. So, and then any equipable is just spell damage. Mainly spell damage, magic find, and minions. And then, of course, armor. You can get really technical if you need, like, Rex lowered. This is really good for early game, or casters. So, you have a lot of options, like block speed, hit recovery, spell focus, stuff like that. But as far as my knowledge is, there's no way to un-MO. Like, I don't know how you do it. So there's no way currently to un-MO an item. You can blank the item with like an oil, but whatever. Oh, by the way, this is... So every act has these merchants. They have all these oils as well. So let's say if I'm like, oh, cool, I want to take a roll and make this item lucky. Every class type of item, like weapon, you can see here, oil of luck. Oil plus the item in the cube, you get a chance one time on an item. So weapons, it's 20% enhanced damage or attack speed if it's an LE base. You can see right there, it lists off all the possible luck upgrades. So like if it's 20%, let's see what my percentage is on here. Weapon physical, 12%. So it's 12%. Didn't get it. That's fine. I don't think I got it at least. But it'll say already upgraded. That will show you, like, oh, okay, so I can't get that. Gotcha. So you'll also probably notice this thing here says Mega Impact. This is a Necromancer-specific item. So what Necromancers have is this innate on their weapons called Mega Impact, which is basically amped damage from vanilla Diablo 2. The only other ones I can think of off the top of my head is... I mentioned it at one point in one of the videos, but it's a Paladin one. She gets stuck in there constantly. Anyways, it's like a Paladin one, like... I can't remember what it's called, but it's Paladins can get like a percentage chance on proc to get like 1 second of invulnerability. It sounds really busted, but it's not. So yeah, that's kind of a basic. I do go over how to craft items for the most part. So runes. Let's talk about rune words before I forget about it. So items. Well, we're on the documentation here. Rune words. There is tons. Look at all these rune words, dude. These are all the rune words in this mod. Loads of them. So let's say if I was playing as a necromancer, I'm like, alright, what are necro scythes? Okay. This is a good example. I'm probably not going to use this, so I might as well blank it. Well, you know what? I'll hold on to this. I'm not going to risk making it just for that reason. So this is where it gets funky. Actually, no, I'll do it. I'll blank it. I don't want to. Okay, let's do it with these, because I'm not going to use these. Let's go to boots instead. So let's say I want to turn this into a rune word item. Bye-bye. I don't know what that was, but bye-bye. So we'll take 4 jewels. We'll socket punch 4 jewels into this. These aren't very good, so I'm not really... That one's pretty good. 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 sockets. This thing's basically ready for rune words. Let's go over to the web page. We're gonna go to boots, wherever the hell boots is. I'll just type it in, and let's make an epicenter boot because that's easy. I don't feel like doing it. So epicenter gives you chance of CB based on character level. You can see all the stuff. They're just like vanilla Diablo 2 rune words, right? So we need an ith rune. Let's go over to my runes. Grab an ith rune. Where the hell is it? There we are. Take these out. Pop that out. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So in Median, and this is not a vanilla D2 thing, there is a special way of crafting rune words that you can apply. So let's say this is 1 socket. I'll just put the rune in and boom, it's ready. So if you have a 4 socket item and a 1 rune word, you can take 3 and boom. That's how you can make 1. So like let's say there was 2 rune words. I can't unsocket this, by the way. But so if it was a 2 rune word, I can show it on here, like outlaw, and it was a 4 socket boot, we'd put 2 gems, 1 here, 1 there, and then we put in Tal Hell, and we'd make outlaw. So fill the slots up before you put them in there, and you can make rune words like that. Other than that, rune words function virtually identically to vanilla Diablo 2. I can show you what I'm talking about, though. They do get much more advanced. Actually, that's a good example. Like, Windrunner, Gull Stone, Elk Stone. So this requires an enchanted rune, 2 stone runes, and a gull rune. So we'd need to go to Tenganzi, get 2 stone runes crafted by getting 2 rune stones and 2 stone essences crafted. And then we need to find an elk rune, which is after Ol, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So they get really high up there. And I can show you how some of them get nuts. Like Savage, that's going to be a Yist, Fel, and a Ka. That's pretty fucking tall order runes right there. Or there's some that are really simple. Like Hem Joe. I always say Joe. I know it's Io. It's a dumb joke I have with a friend. But then you get like Gal, Ol, Yam, stuff like that. Let's go ahead and show you what I'm talking about when I say Yam rune, because this character already has them on hand. So there's also Great Runes, which only drop in one area. It used to be there was 2 different types. You can see I have a little bit of a craft going here too. There's Taha, Gal, and Kor. These are only found in one area in the game. Used to be 2 places. They had 3 different ones for each area. But for now, there's just these. These are in Fostonville. You always know an item is serious business when it uses Foz runes and like Ellie runes and like enchanted runes. You always know it's serious business when an item needs that. So, that's the idea, right? So rune words are really still the same. So if you guys are like, oh, what are rune words like? They're really powerful. I do show on camera in that series how they work. I do craft them on camera a few times to show you guys how they work too. So it's not like I don't talk about it. I go into detail. But yeah, this is the problem with these, is I can't unenchant these. These are basically dead, and I don't need them anymore, so they go on the ground. Actually, Catalyst of Disenchantment I need, so yeah. So this is where Median gets kind of weird, but it's still pretty basic. So this is a nice little feature. I can't do it on this character yet, or anymore, I should say. So, actually, I think the other character I can show it because I have a lot more crap, like, on hand. So let's say you have so many set items, because we've already shown how to get rid of extra uniques, which you want to do. So, what's this? Alright, so this, let's say I don't need this. You'll get 1,000 of these, by the way. If you have spare sets, like here, we can take a Catalyst of Learning, break it down, and this turns it into a free attribute point. Each character can only do this 400 times. They are used, I think, greater signets of learning later on. Are used to summon Destroyer, I'm pretty sure. But it doesn't matter. So yeah, they're free skill points, or sorry, stat points, which is really useful. It's like I said, you're never selling items in Median, you're just breaking them down into different things, which is another reason why D3 was such a huge disappointment. And now let's talk about jewel crafting. This is kind of a big part of Median as well. This is a catalyst. We get these later in the game. Like, I think it's after you kill Ijwal in Nightmare. I'm gonna take a drink real quick. So, yeah. This is really big. We can choose by transmuting which things we want. So, this is where it gets really... I love this. This is such a good idea. So, jewel crafting... Let's say I want to get some Ellie res gear, because it's really early. I'm really struggling for Ellie. Actually, I don't need that, so never mind. I kind of want better gems anyways, or jewels. So, alright, let's see. Yeah, fuck it. We'll just go with lifesteal. let's say I'm a melee character like this and I want lifesteal jewels. So, we're going to try and go for this, right? So I know, because I've crafted these 1,000 times, that the roll is going to be between 1 to 2% lifesteal per hit, which is better than plus 5 life, by the way. It's always better to get higher percentages. So I want that. So I'm an attack rating based character, so I want to have a good attack rating. So let's see if I can roll this. Oh shit, I don't have any. Oops. So this is where, like I said, you want to break down items constantly when you're bored, because you need these kinds of items to make it. So we fuel this with a arcane crystal, gives it 5 charges. Roll it. The first roll, fucking awesome. It could be better if it was 2%, but this is a good one. 46, 50% bonus to AR is the max on this roll. And it's got +1 to Vit. Cool. I like that jewel. I don't really need it, but it's pretty good. Okay, it's actually pretty good. So let's say I want another one of those. Ah, shit, focus. Focus. Lifesteal. +1 to all ats isn't bad. Not really what I'm looking for. Let's recharge it again. And then 15 AS. Pretty good if it was early game, but I don't need it. 1%, 2 to Vit. Not really looking. 45, 1 to Dex. Not bad. I'll keep that. So you always want to have like extra jewels, right, laying around for these kinds of situations. You want to have, and that's what your gold, by the way, gets mainly used for late game. So I'm like, all right, I like these 2 guys. I'm going to put these over here. There's a 45. There's a 44. Cool. These are good. I want this one to be different. Let's try one more try. It's just 132 attack rating. That's not that great. I'm not really going to burn through these to do it, but you get the idea. If you really need like a specific item type, these are what they're used for. Now, you can also get oils to add to items. Like if we read here, Greater Alchemy. This is a late game item. We can give this to a set item amulet. Like I said, you're going to get 1,000,000. And it gives you these possible affixes. You only get 1 try at this, though. So it's better than regular alchemy. There's lesser alchemy, and then there's greater. This is another interesting one, too. Mark of Infusion. You can do this with a magic or rare, and you create honorifics. I'm not really familiar with honorifics. They can be really good if you have the right items. But they receive blank... you get a blank item back, max sockets, and it gives you double the bonus from MOs. So that's really good. I'm assuming it still works, but like it would double unique mystic orbs, which I'm assuming it would. So you can really take advantage. These are the same thing as MOs. They're just uniques. They're like items. So that's pretty cool. If you want to get really technical, if you ever get a respec item like these, Belladonna extracts, you gotta be like pretty prepared to not waste these, by the way. They're not very common. So you can respec at any time if you get a drop. They're not very common, so you had to work for them. These are quest items, by the way. That's pretty much like the gist. So item crafting is super... And like I said, if you want to get really nitty-gritty, yeah, look at that. If you like math and shit, there's that. And if you're late game bored like me, we can actually take this thing called the Catalyst of Transference. It's actually a reward. And duplicate shrines without glitching, obviously. So, like, let's say I want Intimidating Shrine, right? Actually, I think I have it set to Fascinating. I don't know why. So let's take this out real quick. Let's say I want Intimidating Shrines. I don't need this because I'm not a summoner. So I can take this and pop out a Hidden Shrine. Put this, and it'll turn this into Intimidating Shrines. So if I want specific items, this mod really lets you get technical if you want to get like a very specific type of item. Like if you're really bad in median, it's because you're doing something incorrectly. I know that sounds really cocky, but it's probably because you're not optimizing all the tools you have at your disposal. But everyone has different opinions. I think that's kind of the ultimate one. So that's kind of itemization. I think I've explained it pretty well. Now let's talk about the other big changes. So you know how I said that, you know, there's strength scaling, right? So let's go over to my caster real quick. I've never really made casters in this mod, but we'll show you right here. So you can see how I have energy is 1,723. It's a lot like in Diablo 1. If you have high energy, you have an increased percentage to your spell damage. And you have another extra bonus called the spell focus. So multiplier to spell damage, 1% total damage per 10. So it's a pretty good idea. It does have a hard cap of 1,000. So this character, I could probably do better. But yeah. So casters get an extra scale. This is a long overdue thing in my opinion. Because in Vanilla D2, you never fucking ever touch energy. This just doesn't exist. It's just not there. So that's a pretty big important part. So a character like this, you can see I have spell focus on these. I need to change this out now that I have this set, but that's the idea. You can also hold shift, I forgot to mention, and you can see what you have in all your items. It's a really handy way of seeing where items are at if you need to take a specific one out. But that's pretty much items and stats I think I've covered pretty well. And let's talk about the big boy stuff. So, skills. Skills are totally different in Vanilla D2, but they are similar. Characters do play kind of their classic archetypes, but they are inherently different. They do have set specific or class specific items like only a necro can use a necro item, etc., etc. So this is a necromancer. You would start with your, what do I want to make? So you have trad summoner, as I call it. You have melee necro, crossbow, malice, which is a caster build, totem, which is a tri-ele style. It's more support. I'm not really 100% sure on how to use it. I still don't know it very well. Mastery. This is actually when you're doing quests, which we'll talk about in a minute. So like you get 3 masteries per character. This one is a melee one, so I gave him melee devotion, which, yeah, it flat out gives you 20% damage reduction from all sources. Like, that's huge. But you can't use anything but melee and special summoning. No XCs, sorry. But, so you can get, like, purity. All characters can have these. They all have these specific skills. So if you're making a, let's say, melee character, or actually, better yet, let's say you're playing as an unholy paladin, because that's what I remember, kind of. It's been ages, but I remember it kind of. So, you want to not have to be constantly casting buffs. It's up to debate if you want to, but if you want, once you unlock continuity, you can put a point into it, and it decreases your skill timers. Or increases your skill timers. And let's say you're playing as a caster. You want meditation, because you actually do get bonuses on certain character types for this. I'll show you that in a minute. Or like, I don't really use purity. I don't think it's that useful. I don't really mind freedom, because it gives you block speed and hit recovery, but it's alright. Like, that's good on a melee character. I didn't really require it. I might put a point into it later, but I don't think it's necessary. Then you can see you get, like... One thing I haven't mentioned yet is percentages are a much more important factor in this mod. So 1% to physical resist is big. 2%... No, it's 2% per base level for endurance, so it's huge. You want these big percentages. I never use any of these other ones. Chemistry is okay. But this is where every character also differs. They have their own unique rewards. So once you hit level, I think it's 80, you can unlock a specific skill. It doesn't really matter, but everyone will have one of these. You get to choose one ultimate skill. So for melee, I chose Rothma's Chosen. Veil King's really good if you're a summoner. Totem Mancers, I've never used Jin, but apparently it's really good. And once I hit a certain break point, I think it's level 80. 115, there we go, it says it right there. 115, I'd unlock Graveyard, which casts off Punishers, which is like poison bombs that are actually kind of useful, but I will talk about it in the actual playthrough. And then, of course, you have, you know, it used to be called your Need skill. I think it still is. And then there's your, and eventually you're just passives. Usually these are actually passives and they're really good. But, and then every character has what I call a neutral tree. So for Necro, it's Death Speaker, which would be Embalming, and then you can get like Sacrifice, Famine, Death Ward, Bane. This is for more of a summoner build. Death Pact. This is where it gets interesting. So we've chosen Melee Necro. It's actually pretty linear compared to the more spread out kind of style in D2 Vanilla. So you start off in Parasite, which is an AoE skill but not very strong. You'd eventually go into Carnage, which you need to have a scythe or a dagger. So that's what we have scythes for. And that's your increased physical damage and a little bit of conversion to fire. And then you eventually upgrade it to where there's no cooldown timer on it, so I can use this constantly. And then Reaper, we could eventually upgrade Parasite to get more damage and more range on the AoE spell. Angel of Death, we can move around better. It's actually not good as an attack. It's better for mobility. And then if you really want, you can get Blight Descent, which gives you some poison. It's not really that useful. We'll talk about it later, obviously, in the playthrough. And then Death Lord is the skill specifically for this like tree. You can see it only allows the use of melee special summons and like buff debuff. So if we look at our base defense now, it's 176 with the buff on. 651%. And I think it also increases attack speed. Am I right? I feel like this also increases attack speed. I couldn't remember. Oh, I'm thinking of my summon. And then, of course, this is a passive. We get more speed per base level. And this would be if you're using block, but I don't block, so it's pointless. I actually took this out during the playthrough. I have played through as crossbow Necro. It's not bad. This used to be called like Buckshot, I think. It was what I use. Usually you find one or two spells in the tree, and you mainline those. Like if you're a summoner, this is more familiar. Like you still have like Iron Golem from Vanilla D2, but you also have like Nighthawks, which is, I think that was a skill in summoning for Druid in Vanilla. So there is some skills that look familiar to old D2. Like if I'm being real, Carnage is basically just Zeal, and this is basically just Charge, if that makes any sense. But it's really interesting because if we look at our skills, you can see here I have an O skill called Hive, which is a buff that randomly unleashes insects. A couple of bosses use this attack. I have this from a piece of gear. And then, of course, these are all from quests. But like Colosseum is an O skill I have. Teleport, Spiral Dance. I don't even know what this is. What is this? I've never seen this O skill. There's a lot of O skills I've never seen. Give me a thing. Yeah, like you see what I mean? Like there's various types of skills you can do. Like if I wanted to use Hive, like if you find O skills in the wild, which I'll talk about in a minute, give me something to do. Let me do you. There you are. So like, yeah, you can see that's Hive. If you're like, oh, there's all the colors and just ignore those people when they say, oh, there's too many colors in this mod. I don't like all the colors. It ruins it. It's too much stuff going on. I get that, but it's like, man, it's not that big of a deal. It's still Diablo 2. It just looks slightly different. But, that's what I mean. You have O skills and stuff. Like, everyone can probably get mad about this, but you do get an intrinsic, teleport as well. So it's called Bend the Shadows. So necromancers all get this skill. It's actually a very short range. But you know why I like this? Because it makes you not have to fucking grind for like a year straight to get Enigma. And you can do what Enigma would do in vanilla Diablo 2. So, and of course you can upgrade to Jitten's Gate, which is a more traditional thing. We can also use a staff rune word that Pax Mystica that lets you teleport as well with a cooldown timer a little bit longer than this. And this you actually reduce the timer of over time doing quests. And of course, a very, very late game Uber gives you a 2-second cooldown version of teleport. I think vanilla sorceress can teleport like old fashioned, but I haven't played a sorceress in this mod before, so I don't know. But yeah, there's plenty of things you can add to your character. You can make builds around very specific things. Like, for example, Death Speaker has this passive called, or spell called Sacrifice. Sacrifice is really not great for a melee character, but if you have a percent chance to cast Reanimates, which if you've played D3, that's a lot like how the fetishes worked. But this was significantly before that game came out. So if you have like a percentage chance to cast Reanimates on gear, you can just be like, okay, let's summon some corpses and hope I get one. But of course it has a 11 second cooldown. You can't just be like spam. That'd be really broken, right? I think it used to be way shorter back in older patches, but that's my point. So like, not every character is going to use every skill, but if you have the right equipment, like if I wanted to make this all for some godforsaken reason, reanimate gear, and I had sacrifices enabled like that, it would be awesome. Like, you'd be set, right? So this mod is all about using like stuff you find and adding to it, subtracting things you need, don't need. This is a relic. This is something that is very late game. They used to be called Cornerstones of the World. They changed the name since I last played. But like, there's like fucking hundreds of these, and they have like every skill in the game. So if you're, for whatever reason, the one that comes to mind is Star's Tantrum like build he made, where he took advantage of like the fast like attack speed of Unholy Paladin, because I think they still have the fastest attack speed in the game. Might have changed, but it used to be. He put it on Tantrum on a bow, and since your character attacks so fast with the bow, it would basically cast Tantrum, and you just go like brrr, like that and just murder enemies. There's a lot of things that were removed. There used to be Dark Summoning. That's been replaced with Scrolls. So if you're an old Median player like me, a lot of the Ubers have changed. Like, you no longer summon the Butcher, for example. You no longer summon Tal Rasha and cheese him in a corner and fucking skip that whole fight. Those have changed. Now they're all in controlled areas. They have, which I guess I'll talk about now. So if you're like, how many quests does Median add? Oh boy. Oh boy. Ready? And then we go down to here. And then we go up here. And there's just 2 challenges. It used to be 3. It's a little bit more forgiving too. But yeah, these are basically, if you've been looking at my inventory, trophies. Well, not that kind, but these are charms. Unlike in vanilla D2, charms are actually buffs. that you put in your inventory. They're not just like plus to strength. I mean, some of them are, but like there is, of course, corrupted wormhole, which functions as that kind of thing. But I talk about that in more detail when I actually do the Triune. But so for example, if you want to get teleport, you got to get the Book of Callan. You need to be 130 to use it, and it gives you intrinsic teleport, right? So that's really good. There's a reason that's locked at the very end of the game, because if you could just do this, oh look, I have teleport now, that would be really busted. By the way, there's also no ID scrolls and town scrolls. They're all just intrinsic to your character now. So you always have home teleport. It's not a bad change, in my opinion. The reward for freeing Kane is also different. So that's something that you gotta remember. Nice QOL too, because it makes saving gold a lot easier. So, yeah. When you first start out, you're gonna have a few. You're gonna have these 3 charms. Where's the other one I'm looking at? There's like one more you'll probably always have. So in the beginning of the game, you're just gonna have like your class charm and this. That's it. Eventually, you'll start doing certain level thresholds, right? And you'll be like, oh, I think I'm ready to go fight the Butcher. Yeah, that one. And you'll be like, cool, I want to go fight the Butcher. What's the Butcher? I need to be level 1-5. He's in Tristram. Cool. And then you can see he drops the Butcher's Tooth. And I've already upgraded this as well. There's heroic versions where they double the stats on some of these. Not very many, but there's only 3, I think, right now. And then, of course, you have, like... some of these are actually teleports. Like, if I wanted to go fight Asmodan, I could be like, cool, let's go to the... Sorry. Open up the realm of sin. Open up to let me in. Yeah, and we can go fight Asmodan. There's, like, no density. That's fucking hilarious. But, like, yeah. So, and then some of them you can be like, oh, cool, I want to go fight Belial. Alright, cool, we'll go to the Realm of Lies. We can go here. Or, let's say I want to go to Fostonville. Cool, I'll go here. We'll go to Fostonville. So, or let's say... And you're probably like, oh, this is so gross. There's so many new things. What about cows? Cow level's still there, buddy. There's gonna be shitloads of cows in here. Why is the density so bad? This is hilarious. But like, yeah, of course, you know, there's a lot of classic D2 stuff, but of course there's new stuff. Like, and then some of these have different levels of challenges that upgrade through further completion. So like Riftwalker's Eye, I've already done the other 2 challenges on top of it. So like I've already killed the first one. He gives you a +1 skill, and then you do part 2, you get a +2 to skill, then part 3, you get the percentage to your LE res. So this is a big part. From what I understand, it's more of a PoE thing, increasing your percentages, but like that's part of this game. Like intrinsically in vanilla Diablo 2 is getting high res, which is important for late game stuff. But you can see on the website they're broken up into tiers, so it goes from easy to very easy, moderate, hard, very hard, extreme, and then impossible. A lot of those get fucking nuts. I'm talking some of these fights take like 15 minutes minimum. And this is where I'm like, okay, so let's say I want to go do... Oh, I've already fought that shit. I don't want to do it again. Well, I'll show you a better example. So let's go to, like, Loot Ghislaine. I can show you an example. So let's say I want to fight... By the way, I'm, like, way over level for this. There's no reason I wanted to... So he kills, like, that enemy there. It summons a portal. Then you'd say, oh, look, I have 1 minute to kill the Lesser Riftwalker. cool, he's dead. So you see how it says closing in 50 seconds? You might be like, oh, so there's no consequence for dying. You have a 5-second respawn, and you can't just cheese a lot of the late game stuff. It's very specific. Oh, by the way, they moved the waypoint to there. It's really nice. But these are all basically trophies of what you've done. Now, let's see this one right here. Cabraxis. He makes sexually aggressive grunts. He's my favorite Uber in the game. See how at the very bottom there it says Shadow's Embrace? So if we right-click the trophy, you can see that the trophy is kill Cabraxis without being hit by his pillar of poison. Do not die. And then when he dies, we cube the charm. It gives us 5 to 10 extra damage. So it says lock to current class. That means I can't... So I could actually do this. So let's say I'm like, cool, I want my other character to have teleport. I can mule that over to the other character. She'll have teleport unlocked instantly. And I just got to get another charm, right? You can only have one of each charm. I think you can kind of tell that at this point. So, like, that's pretty cool. So it can stack bonuses on top of these. So it says adds 5 to 10 damage. So I've already done the challenge. This is if you're a newer player, it's not as important. But if you're an older player, you used to be able to take 20 of a charm and then cube them together to create a fragment. And then you did that 3 times, and then you got the trophy, and then you added it to the actual charm. They took that out, and they added the challenge system, which I guess is fine. It doesn't bother me. I mean, that's just preventing cheese, right? There's a pretty big market for charms in Trade Gold if you want to do that. I don't really care. But then some charms also have different roles. So let's say this Zazix's illusion. So we can see it says, oh, let's say I was playing as an assassin. Why? I don't know why I'd do that. See how it says +1 to assassin skill. The max roll that this charm can get on a plus skill of any type is 2. So I already got this +2 necro skill, so it's good enough for me. And you can see it adds all that tri-ele damage. That's from completing the challenge. So if you really get unlucky, you can sometimes get like... I actually do this in the playthrough. I show you guys how to actually do these numerous times to show you the differences in how each fight can go. You can go dry for... Fuck, I don't know how many times it took me to get... like on my other character, I think it took me about 5 attempts to get this. I'm not going to tell you how many it took for this one. Or like, let's say... Oh god, some of these are really good. Like, there it is. So like Dragon Claw. I think the life roll max is like 180 on that. It's probably like higher than that, but whatever. So Dragon Claw, it could be better. So if I really, really, really wanted to min-max my stats, I could do it over and over till I get the better one. You can also see that these are how you unlock the extra mastery skills, is by doing the Uber challenges. So some of these are really good. Like, so challenges are really good as well, because you can cube them with the sleep, which is a very late game one, which has its own specific rolls. Like this one is 60% damage to demons and undead. Since I'm a melee character, that's really good. And it gives you the plus 75 life and mana leech. Fantastic. If you know what this is from, it's from Assur's Bane. Or sorry, Demon's Bane. I didn't want to do this twice, because it's not worth it. Getting that charm is fucking awful on this. So, yeah, some of them are very specific. Like, you can see, like, Astraga's Venom Stinger. Kill the real Astraga while he is empowered by a spider statue, and after he dies, -5 to enemy Ellie res. That would be really good for an elemental character. So some of these are worth doing, but it also gives you a cooldown on Jitten's Gate, which is the innate skill we get later on for teleporting before we get real deal teleport. So they do have a progression. Like, Black Road has changed if you're an old player. Black Road is no longer the 5 trials. It's just you kill Chef Boyardee, and he he gives you food. Just kidding. It's a little bit more complicated now. So, well, I mean, getting to Fosdenville is different. So another example is you probably noticed, so where do we kill these monsters, right? So something like the Butcher, we go to Tristram, and I'm not going to spoil where it's at, but a good example is, let's say, Duncraig. Duncraig used to be in Mausoleum, if I remember correctly, but it's changed, so now we can go to Bramwell from here in Hell difficulty. Look at that cute-ass camel. And then we can go to the Church of Dian Apstein. And then this is really easy because of how this character is handling it. But, and then we can kill Chef Boyardee over here. He's gonna, yeah, you stick it to the man. Fuck the man. Fuck the system. Tear it all down. So, like, if we wanted to go to Path of Enlightenment, oh, Jesus, I shouldn't be standing still. We can go there to teleport there. And then I'm going to just teleport over here. And then if we want to get to Duncraig, we go through here into the subterranean corridor. I've already got the waypoint unlocked. Some of these have waypoints now. Huge change in quality of life. And then we can go to Duncraig. What's the boss of Duncraig? It's a big piece of shit named Acer, and he sucks. These are all static maps, by the way. So remember when I said you have map hack in 8? That's cool, but this is better for the overworld of the vanilla game. Just to give you guys a heads up, I don't even show Hell. I just show Ubers after Nightmare, because Nightmare is the only time the game significantly changes the vanilla experience. So you do go through normal, Nightmare, Hell. It used to be called Destruction and Terror in older patches. So you still go through the whole game. You kill Diablo. You do the things. However, once you get to Hell mode, which doesn't take that long. It only takes about 2 hours to clear Hell. I'm not even kidding. Get to Worldstone Keep, right? And you're like, cool, let's kill Bale. Bale's a level 125. Uber. So if you're not 125, you're not fighting Bale. That's where the game takes off. Some people don't like it, but I don't mind. It was nice to see what's changed. It's not that long anyways. But the base game is still all here. You still do everything in the base game. You still kill, you know, Andariel, Duriel, Mephisto, Diablo, Bale, etc., etc. You still do all those vanilla quests, and you still get rewards for it, like Larza gives you sockets, all that shit. It's all still there. You know, except you have this massive expansion of quests added onto the game. Let me reload the game and explain it real quick. So, for example, when you want to do Bremtown, right? Like, you want to do Ghosts of Old Bremtown. We're going to go to Fosdenville. And then you got to go through this crap. And by the way, this character is very efficient at clearing this. You might be like, all this color... Oh no, it's not Diablo, it's Path of Exile, even though this is all Diablo and it's all the same. And you might be like, you're not taking that much damage. That's because I have an insane amount of life leech, and I'm not fucking around, right? This character is stomping this place. Oh look, a Burr rune. Not a big deal. But this is my point. A lot of these enemies are extremely fucking dangerous. We go to Bremtown. Cool, right? I'm not going to spoil Bremtown. But that's a good example. But then you also have new hubs. So, like, let's say you want to go to Caldeum. Once you get the teleport from the enemy in Act... Actually, I think I'll just show you it. Why not? It's not that hard. So we go to Lower Kurast. By the way, shrines also stack in this mod. It's really handy. And yeah, I know my defense is 0 when running. I'm not stupid. I know how the game works, by the way. I make fun of it all the time when I'm playing. Oh, for fuck's sake. I thought I could jump over that, but whatever. So, like, once you can do... Most mini-bosses in Vanilla D2 are how you get to, like, the areas and Uber bosses. Don't stand that shit. It's dangerous. You can go to Caldeum. Chaldeum has what's called the Valthek quest, or the Yashari Sanctum. This is based on a book, an actual book I'm talking about here. So you can do this hour-and-a-half long dungeon called Spectre of Hatred. You get 2 sets in there, and then you take the sets and you go do Valthek, which is like an 8-minute boss fight. And then up here, we can go do Primus, and then when we kill Primus, we can go to the Triune to kill Malik, and we can also get things with a corrupted wormhole. We can upgrade that, and then you can go down here. I think this is how you get to Creature of Flame, right? Yep. You can go do Creature of Flame and Dimensional Sanctuary. That's pretty cool. If we go over yonder, we can fight this doofy-looking asshole. I don't really care about him. He's like apparently some big deal in like a book. We can go to the Vijeri Temple to Quove Sin. He'll swallow my soul, apparently. And then we can go to Kingdom of Shadow, which I'm not going to spoil this. It's pretty fucking sick. And then you can go to the Sleep from there. There's so much that this mod adds. Like, if you're like, oh, what else does it add? Okay, so we can go to the Pandemonium Fortress. We can kill Ijwal. I don't remember where he's at. And then we eventually fight our way up to Silver City, which is in the high heavens. Hey, Tyrael, what's going on? We can go to the Library of Fate, and where we can fight Zacharim's avatar, and we can get, like, a charm from that. Or, oh, this is where it gets even better. So, and then you can go from here to Silver Spire. We can teleport around. All these maps are static, by the way. I don't need to look at the map for this. And then at the end of this, we can fight Anarius, Malthael. I don't remember who else. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter, I should say, but you get the idea. There's all these areas have difficulties, and then if you want to get really technical, we can do the Abyss from here. In this area specifically, I should say. And then if you want to get even more gritty, we can take Zacharim's ear, transmute it with a perfect gem, and we get a scroll that will let us go to the heroic version. And if we want to get even more nuts, we can take 2 angelic items and increase the difficulty even further to make it a 135, or sorry, 130, meaning it has the highest A level drops. And it gives you more angelic items, but it gives you more density, and it makes things harder. There's more resistances, there's different enemies. So there is a ton of, and I don't even want to spoil it. Like, there's little cool, like, lore tidbits of classic D2 lore and D1 lore. I'm going to take a drink in. There is so much shit in this mod that explaining it in this video. And by the way, have you even noticed what this summon is? You probably do if you've played Oblivion, by the way. It's a Nether Lich. They took out Porkchop, and that was my favorite monster in the whole mod, and they took him out. He's gone. Makes me mad. Maybe he's in Dimensional Labyrinth. I don't know. But if you think that's, like, nuts, okay? This is how you do it correctly. So, if you think this is crazy, like, oh, those are just little dungeons, right? Oh, that's neat. So, what about overworld areas? Yeah, it's got those too. So, like, this is the Tarajan jungles. We can fight Akarat, Lord Alder Jitten. We can fight Astraga. We can go to, like, fucking what else? You can fight Bartuk in here. We can go to K3K. We can go to the Tarajan Cemetery and fight Lilith. We can go to, oh, like, just, there is so much shit in this mod, dude. Like, and this is a entirely small subsection just for one Uber, and it's just so cool. I love it, and it feels like Diablo. Then we can go to here. We can go to Taganzi, and look at how big this map is. I'm gonna get fucking hit in the ass. That's okay. These maps are huge, and they're all different biases. Like, this is where we get, like, rune essences and stuff. Like, there is so much. Like, there's Skazglan, there's... Oh, God, K3K, there's Tranithula, there's a summoning boss fight with the avatar of Athula you can do with that. There is so much in this mod.
I can't do that here.
Yeah, you can't do it here. There's just too much. But that's my point. There's so many different items to collect, and there is, like, some items that are, like, super cool. I almost threw that on the ground out of habit. Let's not do that. I actually might need that later. So, but yeah, there's so much. Like, this is a secret that tells you, I mean, everyone knows how to do it now, but there's hidden quests like Brother Lazarus, if you don't know about that. There's like emblems you can find that are really rare to craft, like really crazy cool Amazon bows after you kill Athula. There's so much shit. There is so much on top of Diablo 2 that I can't even explain it all. There's so much of it. But that's even just poorly explaining it. There's so many different formulas now. Like, if we go up here, you can see how experience is calculated now. Like, it's totally different when you're in hell difficulty, or sorry, regular, and then to level 100. You can see how the party mechanics work now. Spell focus, if you're like, cool, look at this fucking math nerd shit. Like, it's all there. Like, if you want to know, okay, so I'm looking for a specific relic that I really want to make a cool build around, right? Let's see if I can find it on here. There we go. So I want to find a specific item. These are all, like, just completely universal area drops. They do drop in specific areas more commonly, but... Or if you're like, oh, I want a specific UMO, like, that I want to make honorifics on. I want to do a specific character, or have a specific gear set to do a certain thing. Or I want to make my corrupted wormhole for one character, and then I have a backup for a specific type. I can get these ones and charm them all on top of it. Like, there is so much to this mod that it's infeasible to even try to explain it all. But if you're like, oh, cool, what is, I don't know, what's the town guard get? Cool, so he gets the equipping of pally, spears, and helms. Okay, what if I want to make an exemplar, a shapeshifter, a fighter mage, a blood mage, and necrolite? I want to make an abjurer, like screaming eagle. I don't know. Fucking, there's so many things. And if you look at the actual characters, I'll just show you an example. So, like, this is just Paladin. Paladin's one of my favorite classes in vanilla Diablo 2. Right? This looks like normal. Okay. Well, let's look at his skills. Why do I not have... Oh, that's right. When you're a new character, you have to do it all different. Look at that. So, like, you have neutral trees. And then, like, you'll notice here, I think aspects... I think it's how it is now, but... Yeah, that might be it. So yeah, you have like holy devotion, you have neutral devotions, unholy devotion, on top of these skills here, and then you have your passives. Yeah, this must be the passive tree now. I haven't looked at this yet. Like, there, you can make so many different things. Like, there is a set for neutral paladin. I don't know how good it is. Or like, let's say you want to make an Amazon. Let's get rid of this guy. I don't need examples. I'll make an example out of you. So, like, let's look at my Amazon, for example. Just don't look at all this crap in my inventory. It's a mess. So it's like, okay, divine. All right, we got our passive tree. I don't really need all this crap. I can make a bow Amazon. I can make a javelin Amazon, a spear zon, a storm zon, specifically enlightening, blood zon, which is like caster and kind of garbage. You know, and then you have different aspects. Like, let's look at this, for example. So wild and free, I need 1 point, and I can run basically this fast already off the bat. Like, I think it's like 80% movement speed at my current level now. Or blood, for example. If you unlock blood magic, you can't use spear, bow, whatever. But you get these differences, like, so you can see here that your skills cost life instead of mana, but you might be thinking, well, what the hell is the point of mana then if you're not going to use it? It gives you a synergy where you get 1% max life regen per 40% bonus to mana regen. So if there's gear for casters that has mana regen, you still get a little bit of extra goodies for having that. And then if you have energy, you can increase your spell damage, and while you're increasing spell damage, you can also get max mana. And you can see here, I have a current bonus of 2,000 max life based on how much, like, life regen per second. That's just whatever. When you add skill points, it actually lowers it, because it's supposed to be a sacrificial skill. But you get 400 life at every 500, and then 1,000, 2,000, you get more mana. So there is intrinsic differences between each character you play. Like, you could be like, okay, cool, I want to make Magic Missile have less range but deal more damage. I can make it so my fire summons... let me throw those. Are they B? Yeah. I can make it so I cast it where there's 2 of these guys. You can get 15 at a time, by the way. I can do that, you know, so I have 2, so that way I can just distract enemies like an actual summoner would. So there's, like, tons. And there's actually, like, uniques. I think I have one in here somewhere. Maybe. I think I have... Like, this here would be good for a Storm Zone. That's really new, by the way. I don't think that was in older patches. There's one in here that's really cool. Amazing Grace, that's what that skill's called. Amazing Grace is a chance to not be hit, or you take no damage for 1 second. And you have that on a Spear Zone for some reason, right? I did use this for a while. Where is it? There's something in here, like... I can show you on the actual website here. This is really interesting. So if we look at our rune words for Necromancer, we type in Scythe. Sorry, Necromancer. Scythe. And we go here. You can see if I make Time Father, which is kind of what I want to go for, it nullifies the fire damage on Carnage, and it turns it, like, Carnage conversion is reduced by 1% per base level, but it also adds all these different modifiers. Like, there's one where your gear gives you, like, different, like, attributes to your elementals here. Those used to be, I think, a universal summon, by the way, for Amazon, but they changed it a few patches ago, apparently. But yeah, there is so much to this mod. But I think that's pretty much it. You guys get the gist of it. I poorly explained 2.10 and Median's fundamentals. I tried not to spoil that much, but yeah, if you guys don't want to watch this, it's fine. Just say, like, pickle if you got this far, right? No, don't say pickle. That's stupid. Say hazy IPA. There you go. And yeah. So the next video will be the humble beginnings of this Necro. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next one.